Evander, just want to make sure you're not mad at me for anything I said. You're cool and everything's good. That's good. Okay. I just was, that's the second time I've seen this, and it was almost like viewing it for the first time, and all the messages, positive, and even some of the things that were disturbing, just is outstanding. And the one thing I take from it is just how real boxers are. I mean, I deal with a lot of athletes in the job I'm in. I'm a sports columnist for the New York Post, so I deal with football players and basketball players and, you know, different kinds of golfers and things like that. But the most real people are boxers. They tell you exactly what they're thinking and how they're feeling. So, I mean, it's just a great, great sport. And you know, I don't know exactly where to start. I just start with the director, Bert. I mean, what did you want your audience to take away from this film?
I mean, the goal is really to have the audience take what they want to take from the film. I mean, a lot of times documentaries, at least being a filmmaker, have a tendency of really preaching something or, you know, really hitting you over the head with the same rhetoric over and over. And the goal here was to hopefully allow the audience to kind of take a step back from themselves, take a step back from, if they're a fight fan, if they've never been a fight fan, and understand the humanity behind the guys, understand the politics that's behind it, and how it's a microcosm for a much bigger thing that probably affects all of us, and that's really prevalent today, more so than ever. So the goal is really, you know, this was the inherent irony in boxing, the escaping violence with violence is always something that's really spoken to me, and something that I was always curious about, and who better to do that with than three of the most iconic men of our time. And so that's what really, you know, got me to want to tell a film like this, to hopefully broaden the audience and, you know, to bring that greater discussion to the surface, to people who maybe aren't as aware of. I mean, there's a lot of people who feel, you know, boxing shouldn't exist. There's a lot of people who feel, you know, who are very defensive. So we'll have critics, I'm sure, in the film, and like boxing does, but the idea is to bring that conversation to much, you know, more prominent levels so that people can actually, you know, changes can be made, and at least, you know, boxers who enter the ring, because boxing's not going anywhere anytime soon. If you know, haven't seen, you know, this week with Pacquiao and Floyd, it's like the money's still there, the demand is there. There just needs to be a lot of changes made, like Lou had mentioned in the film, and you know, getting sport regulated more on a federal level, or, you know, union, whatever the case may be, looking out for the greater good and helping the fighters who do have to enter the sport and do choose to do that. And that's why Vander's so great too, because he's really dedicated himself post-career, really helping these young amateur guys. He's super humble, and he doesn't like to, you know, boast at all, but that's, you know, he really has dedicated himself to helping those people, and that's why, you know, I really chose Evander as one of our leads.
Evander, as you go into your post-career life, what's the dynamic of that? When you're coming up as a fighter, everybody's trying to entertain you, and it's a lot of yeses. As your post-career goes along, is it a lot more challenging than in your career as a fighter?
Not really. You know, I was a late bloomer, and I was the guy that people didn't believe. And someone did believe, you know, my mama and my coach, and everybody else. I never did get a sponsor to the last year. He made the Olympic team. So, you know, I didn't really have a lot of money. So it was easy when I turned pro to get this person. I only had one guy that did anything, and that was Ken Sanders. So, you know, when I asked him, do he want to be my manager, he said, I don't know that about boxing. I told him, you don't have to know that about boxing. You just got to know how to count the money. I said, I can box. I said, you can count the money. I just don't know that about the money part. You know, he had worked with us. So, you know, pretty much, you know, it's just what level you at. When I got rid of Ken Sanders, I never had nobody else that I could trust like that. Trust Ken Sanders.
Well, you have a bittersweet relationship with this sport. Are you optimistic for the future?
I'm optimistic. Depends on the fine optimism. You know, there will never be a regulation of boxing, period. It's a push for it, it's just the time. You know, there's a law in the books that's not enforced. If you have a law and no one enforces it, you might as well not have a law. going to be pension for boxers that's meaningful. There's never going to be a union. How do you have a union when 1% of the athletes get 99.something% of the money? Just by definition, whether it's Floyd Mayweather or Manny Pacquiao or Bernard Hopkins, who talks a good game, honestly, but, you know, I love Bernard. Bernard has, in some ways, I mean, we've had a very complex relationship, but Bernard has the first dollars that he made, which frankly is a wonderful thing for the fight. The flip side of it is, does he want to give up a percentage of his money? Because if you take 1% from the 2% from a kid who makes $29,000 or $25,000 in a year, killing himself, it's not much. If you take 1 or 2 or 3% from Floyd Mayweather or Pacquiao or Bernard Hopkins, in effect, your pension, in effect, your union is being funded by a couple of guys who honestly haven't really stood forward to create a union. And when that 1%'s not standing forward, the other 99 are irrelevant, honestly. So there's not going to be a union. So I'm optimistic. Here's what I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic now with the return of network television to boxing, that we can attract more attention and more eyeballs. I'm optimistic that if you bring in new fans, a younger demographic of fans, you may bring advertisers, different revenue sources back into boxing. And I'm optimistic that enough attention that's brought in the sport, and there'll be some attention brought to the problems the sport has, so maybe some of them can be solved. But frankly, it's going to be self-regulation. If it ever happens, that's going to fix the sport. And, you know, like I say some things in there about, I favor federal regulation. I favor mandatory neurological testing, including cognitive testing, on a regular basis. And that if you're knocked out, you can take some time off and do recap scan after a knockout. I mean, I favor a lot of things, but a lot of my competitors don't favor the same things because they stand in the way, obviously, they make a lot of money. A lot of states that make loads of money off of the sweat and the toil of fighters, and their regulations stink. Why aren't they greater? Why? Because the state makes a lot of taxation. A lot of taxation in the sport is taxes on ticket sales, there's revenues on television revenue, taxes on television revenue. So is the state's interest really to protect the poor kid, or is the state's interest to generate as much money as can from the state? So, I mean, I'm optimistic in some ways, and I think that I'm shaking. I've been in the sport most of my life. I think over half of my life I've been working in boxing. So, I mean, I love the sport, but if I wasn't doing some other things, that would be so that's, you know, now I have a production company, I do some clips myself. Now I run my baseball team. I'm still immersed in boxing, but it's not the totally dominant. My life's not completely boxing. Because if it was, it's not only unforgiving for guys like him, it's unforgiving for guys like me, particularly if you have intentions.
Questions from the audience, very informal. Any kind of questions you have?
Vander, I'm interested, going into a film like this, it's revealing your life. Is there anything discussing before the film was made that you definitely wanted in the film? Is there anything that you definitely wanted to keep out of the film?
But not really, because in becoming who I am, is the opportunity that always come in. I didn't know what I could be. All I know that I grew up in this neighborhood. I was the youngest in town. And I was told that I wasn't going to be it. To be poor and to people look at you like you was a disease. Like they can catch a disease from you. They look at you and move this way and take the pocketbook of other show like that. And I was raised, had a good mother that, tell you what those things like that. If I wouldn't have got that opportunity to voice that man, Carter Martin, who was white. So at this time, in the black neighborhood that we lived in, they say, you can't trust nobody white. But it was my mama who told me that son, don't ever be prejudiced. So I mean not being prejudiced, but doing what my mother asked me to do. This man told me I could be something more big. He said I could be like Muhammad Ali. And I believe it. But before then, I told my mother 8 years old. He told me I wouldn't always be 8. And I believe because next week I was going to be 9. So, and one of, did something, and to go through all that I went through to become the champ, I realized that the art of life is giving back. That man didn't have to do that for me. I didn't do anything to deserve that man to do that. This man paid for everything that I ever had. When I was 16 years old, to the day he passed. And yeah, and it bothered his kids, because the kids that wonder why he would spend so much time with me. But he told his sons that this guy here is going to be the champ. You know, I was like looking at him saying, how in the world can he see something that I can't see? I lose a fight. He tell me, man, I just practice. And so, you know, end up that, you know what? He said, you have a goal, your goal is to make the Olympic team. Make the Olympic team. Your goal is to be the heavyweight champion of the world. But, you know, everything that he said, and I just kept doing it. You know, it's just one I had to play. And so, with me, it's an honor for me to be here, be able to tell somebody else, don't let nobody else determine your destination. So, you know, it would be wrong for me not to give. You know, when they talk about what I lost, I didn't lose anything. I gave a lot of things away. I gave more than I should have. Because the fact is, because when my mama passed, and it was like, I didn't have a governor. Now, my mama was a governor. Why my mama lived, didn't nobody take too much. Because the thing was, you got to ask my mama. Now, once my mama passed, it was hard for me to look at somebody in the eye and they asked me for something and said, I don't have that. It's almost like you lied. So, you know, I realized that the most important thing is that you said no sometimes. So, you know, the second half of my life, that, you know, and there was a lot of people, you know, kind of get the idea that I'm broke. No, I'm not broke. I'm not broke compared to the average person. I just don't have as much as I do, but I have something. So the whole thing is to, you know, give yourself and you can move on. And I have moved on, and I have other business people who are a lot more knowledgeable than the ones that I have. So, you know, I'm okay with it, and this is the reason why I'm here. So I'm not upset, bitter, or anything. Each generation's going to take it to another level. I got kids. Because of mistakes that I make, they don't have to make. My mother told me she was poor for me to be rich. Now, how in the world can I believe that as a kid when she only had a 6th grade education? But at the age of 21 years old, I was a millionaire. I was a millionaire at the age of 21. So, and the fact that my mom can do that, now why can I not? So, the fact is about giving back. So, I'm here today, and I'm proud to be part of this, to be able to inspire somebody who believe that you can actually do it.
I think that's another thing, just to add on to that, that it was the goal of making the film and why we all wanted to make a film like this was, to go off what Lou was saying, was, you know, there's certain things that can or cannot be done maybe in the sport, but truly, you know, if we don't bring a real large, hopefully global kind of awareness to these problems, because they go well beyond boxing, you know, nothing will ever be done. So the idea is to really bring this to a conscious level for a much broader audience, not just, you know, the boxing fans and sports fans, so that this becomes a much greater conversation, because it goes well beyond boxing. It's in every aspect of society.
Question?
Well, I had a boxing-related question. I know you were ringside for the Tyson and Buster Douglas fight. In your heart, did you really want Tyson to win so you could be the first person to defeat Tyson?
Well, you know, the honest truth. The honest truth is that I never, my job was never to chase a person. I was chasing the belt. So it didn't make no difference who won the fight. I like to win. It wasn't, you know, so I didn't get caught up in the individual, you know, but my mama did tell me, she said, son, good fighter, you can't push them away, they don't go. So you know what? So I knew Tyson wasn't the person that I'm going to use a whole bit, not sure because of my fingers. You know, because it didn't happen with C.C. Collins, the guy that beat me twice. It didn't happen with it. I crossed my finger, that guy showed up every time. Like that, you know, to the day that I didn't cross my finger, I had to face it, and I eventually did.
Yeah, I saw some of the clips and I remembered exactly where I was in some of those moments. You know, and I remember you fought Riddick the first time and the fan man came. I always wondered what you guys thought when that first went down. What went through your mind?
Well, you know, I was disappointed. You know, hey, the difference is when I fought Riddick Bowe and I, we used to be smart. He loved being big. That was the guy that was so happy being big. And he would see me, he would rub me on the shoulder like this, and he would say, you know what? A good big guy better than a good little guy. You know, this is what he said. And we smart. And I would stop him in the ring. Every time.
Be a little different for him, really, but the truth is this: if he was 6'5", weighed 245, he was born like Lennox Lewis or Vladimir Klitschko, this man would have been the greatest heavyweight over there. That's fact.
Tell me how much you weighed when you came out of high school.
I weighed 147, and I was about 5'9". I was a late bloomer. I was a late bloomer, and people asked me, they said, I didn't want to get prize. I was just a late bloomer. And it's amazing. I graduated in 1980. In 1990, the 10-year class, I was the heavyweight champion of the world. So when I came back to the class, they couldn't call me Lil Holyfield. They said, what happened? I said, I was a late bloomer. I was a diamond in the rough. But then, that's what it was.
My back hurts. You want to use that? Yeah.
Well, I guess it's all in how you raise, you know, all my life I was, you know, I was a Christian. And my mom would tear my mind up. Like that. She said, you know, you gotta have peace, son. You gotta have peace. So, you know, I had a grandmother that, you know, prayed for me all the time. I think everything happened because people keep talking. My grandmama, you know, I get these 3 whippings a day. And my grandmama, after I get that whipping, then my grandmama rolled out in that wheelchair and said, put your head down. Lord, you got to save it because his mama gonna kill him if he don't change. And so, you know, that's what the thing is. So, you know, so you have to forgive. So, you know, when I got in the fight, my big advantage is that everybody would look at each other's eyes, and I look at each other's guys' eyes, they would get me. I kind of like smile. Because you know what? I know peace gonna overcome all that. You know, you have to really concentrate and be angry. You know what? If you do things because you love what you're doing and all that, this will always give me an advantage. And you know, like people didn't know, I knew it, and they worked with Mike Tyson all the time. Mike would want to be mean and mad. You know, I look at him and I start smiling. You know, he couldn't stay mad. He said, man, he's just too nice. You know, so you know, I realized he had a problem. He can only fight if he's angry. So my mama told me, never get nobody no darts. Don't say nothing. They gonna use it against you. So you know what? So I will always say, I ain't gonna say nothing about Mike. I wasn't gonna give him no ammunition. So you know, so the whole big thing is you have peace. And you learn to do things out of joy and happiness. You know, you can go a lot longer. Go a lot farther.
Question in the back?
I'm happy to speak about it, but I got to preface it by two things. One is the guy's a friend of mine. Two is, I'm doing a lot of work with premier boxing champions and so forth. Starting with that, here's what I'll say about Al-Haymon. The fighters make the majority of money in the matter of Al-Haymon. But he takes about 10% of money.
For people who don't know, we just tell someone.
Al-Haymon is a very successful African-American guy, Harvard educated, Harvard Business School, became one of the top promoters in the business while he was still in business school. I've known him for 15, 16 years because that's how long he's really been around boxing. You would have usually a friend from Gordon Forrest, the late Gordon Forrest was a friend of mine too, but Al worked with Gordon Forrest, and Al became Mayweather's advisor, found some sort of regularities he thought in the way they were economically handled, and Mayweather became discharged. Frankly, Floyd's make most of the money generated by Floyd's fights. And Al's never had one fighter who worked for him, advised by him, managed by him, ever sue him or allege that $1 was taken or should have been taken. And I don't, it's not Al's job to be custodian of the goodness of the sport or to make the most warlike matchups. When you're a manager or you're an advisor, your job is to make as much money as you can for your fighter with the least possible risk. And anyone who says that guy's not doing his job is an idiot. And my attitude is I'm down for what's best for the sport. Like I grew up on the sport. I grew up with, I grew up with Muhammad Ali, listening to his fights with a transistor radio. That's how I date myself. I'm old under my pillow, and watching guys like Hagler, Hearns, Leonard, and Duran on network television. So when I watch a guy now raise a lot of money, a great boxing guy on network TV, and he says to me, "Lou, I want you to work with me and help me out doing this," I'm down. Because this sport needs to have its free show. This sport needs to be rapid. And again, if he's stealing from the fighter, if he's exploiting the fighter, if the fighter is being victimized by Al-Haymon and criticized Al-Haymon, but if that's not what's happening, then your criticism is placed.
The guy that's win. The guy that win. Art of the game this day, I don't think they would be paying either one of them guys if they knew who gonna win. And so, I understand that's boxing. And they don't want nobody to retire undefeated. So they gave him enough money to make this fight. Because they feel that Pacquiao stand a good chance. And, so I'm going to the fight because I don't know who's gonna win. Now, if I knew who was gonna win, I wouldn't even go to the fight. And that's the honest truth.
I'm going to fight with Mayweather's going to win.
And I think we're at a tremendous time in boxing. We talked about going back to network television. For the first time in 30 years, NBC had a primetime fight last weekend, and it did about 4.2 million eyeballs at its peak.
Which is more eyeballs than watching a boxing match in 20-something years. More than that. When you live up like 20. Well, the whole key, the reason boxing is eternal, and it is there's no other sport that's more of a metaphor for life. And you look at this guy right here, and he's a perfect example. He's too small. He robbed. Before he ever started his pro career, he already experienced with screwed. He was never supposed to be heavyweight champion. He got lucky to become a cruiserweight champion. And it turned out to be one of the greatest of all time. Mike Tyson, roller coaster. Mike wouldn't wish his life away. I don't care how much money he made, how much money he gave away, his life was a lot of horror. But boxing is about getting knocked down, which is really what life is about. Because every one of us gets knocked down in some way, somehow. I don't care if you're the richest man on earth or Warren Buffett. We're going to get knocked down, we're going to have to prove it. And that's the beauty of boxing, that's the theater of boxing, that's the poetry of boxing, and that's why 4-point-something million people watched the show a week ago, and that's why I don't think we're going to win.
There'll be another primetime fight tomorrow night on Spike TV.
And I'm promoting on April 11th at Barclays Center.
On
On NBC. On NBC.
Right.
Yes. Go right behind you. No,
what surprised me the most, I've been an avid sports fan forever. I think what surprised me the most is how relatable and human these guys are. You know, the fact, and what surprised me too is that guys at such an iconic level who have achieved so much, come from so much adversity, then gone back to adversity, how they've been able to maintain a positive outlook on life. I mean, that's, as cliche as that sounds, it's really, it's a hard thing to do. It's much easier said than done. And, you know, we all know people, we've been through stuff, our family members who have been through a lot of stuff in life. And I think that, and the fact that, you know, these guys have a lot of humility, the humility that they have, and the fact that they wanted to make as powerful a film as possible that hopefully transcended the sport of boxing. It goes beyond whether, you know, rules and regulations are changed or whatnot, that people outside of the sport get a good and honest glimpse of who the men and women are, the humans behind those gloves, and where they come from, why they come to be and where they are, and where, you know, and where do they go from here? So I think, you know, what surprised me most is just how humble these guys are and how great they were, that they really want to, I mean, granted, he's sitting next to me, so I have to say some of this, but yeah, they're really, their goal is to have a positive impact on people's lives. And to me, it wasn't just like being a sports hero or icon, which, you know, they've already accomplished that. It's, you know, they wanted to, you know, be part of this project and they work in their personal lives to really have that positive impact on people and hopefully spread the word so that people know how to thrive, you know, outside of whatever it is they do for a living.
I mean, I didn't want to be honest with you, like, I thought that same thing in my head, but I didn't want to go there, because it's sort of diversity that almost a monopoly. No, I mean, I'll go there, but I was scared away from that, but I've had that thought process, because if there's enough people under an umbrella and they're fighting on platforms branded the same way, there is more potential for them. There's already some things being done that no one's talked about. For example, you know, this PBC, this Premier Boxing Champions, which is the brand. They're doing these fight cards now on NBC, CBS, Spike TV, etc. They've already made an arrangement with the Mayo Clinic, the Cleveland Clinic, for the fighters that are fighting on this platform to be neurologically tested as part of a study on the effects of boxing on the brain and on the long-term health of the fighter. There's mandatory drug testing for everyone who fights on this Premier Boxing Champions. There's mandatory PED testing. And in my mind, PEDs are a huge problem. I mean, if a guy hits a baseball 100, you know, feet farther because he's on roids, or Mark McGwire hits, you know, 60 home runs or whatever, it's not as dangerous as a guy hitting another guy in the head with 20% more force. You know? I mean, what's unfair in boxing is to lose someone's life in one night. You know, that same thing may affect some statistics or result in a ball game. It doesn't have that same kind of a human, you know, effect. So there's already some things being done that people are talking about with this new venture. Could unionization come of it? Yeah, but you could probably wind up unionizing among that group as opposed to, you understand? The problem with unionization is there's no commission. There's no national governing body. There's no boss. There's usually no union. You know, and again, you need really the top 10 earners in boxing, or some number of them. Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather and Vladimir Klitschko and 2 or 3 others came out at the same time and said, we're gonna donate part of what we earn, tax us, and we'll be taxed the same way you're going to tax the guy making, you know, 1/1000 or 1 millionth of what we're making. Then you have a union. But in the absence of the guys with the big bags full of cash, um, trying to make it happen. It's not working.
Yeah.
Because you have to collectively bargain with someone. So if you're in the movie business, the studios making the movies have to, they bargain with the unions and say, we're not going to use an actor who's not unionized. We're not going to, you're not allowed to, if you're at Paramount Studios, use a non-union actor. You're not allowed to have a writer that's not with the WGA. You're not allowed to have a director that's not with the director's guild. Who's going to enforce this in boxing? No, there is no one to enforce it. That's the whole point. Well, I mean, state governments, there are laws on the books, and who's enforcing the studios themselves? They'll get sued. The union turns around and goes to the Attorney General of the state, and there's a criminal, potentially even criminal exposure to the studio if they don't use union talent, or a union director, or a union writer. It's a whole system. Who's going to enforce it in boxing?
Take a couple
Who
more.
Right now, there's a Muhammad Ali Act that says you can't, a manager can't work for a promoter. Now, that being said, there are managers working out of promoters' offices. There are managers who are the son of the promoter. There are managers, I mean, like that the rules are broken constantly. You have to disclose to your fighter in the Muhammad Ali Act how much money you're really making. Now, what a lot of my competitors do is they walk in after the fight's taken place, after the negotiation's over, in the dressing room and tell the fighter, oh, by the way, I just paid you 200 grand, but I got paid $1.2 million by the network. Well, I guess at that point, the fighter's got no recourse. There's nothing he can do. There's never been a criminal violation. There's never been an enforcement of the Muhammad Ali Act.
15 years.
I mean, there's never been a state attorney general or a law enforcement entity that's gone after somebody, even for overt theft. So, I don't know.
You guys did a great job sort of wrapping this larger narrative up in one. It's cool on the questions related to performance. That's obviously the challenge. And so for all the people that will watch this, what I know obviously it's going to be what does someone like me ideal to someone support something or
I think it's spread the word. I mean, the more people are talking about something, the more media attention things get, the more it's brought to public awareness and a conscious level where people can have honest discussions about making positive changes. I mean, and that's how anything's changed. I think a lot of people feel like they're just one person and there's nothing to, nothing can be done. I think the more people are talking about something and applying pressure on something and hopefully bringing attention to major problems is the only way. So, I mean, spreading the word and coming up with positive solutions, like with those discussions so that they get to the higher level and they have to.
When a fighter starts making money, he needs an independent lawyer, he needs an independent accountant, he needs an audit, he needs a promoter. When a guy starts making real money, a guy starts making, climbs up the ladder and starts making how much money. You can't trust people. I mean, it's unfortunate to say, but a lot of the lessons you're putting out there is that if you don't watch your own, it's really true. And that's really important.
Yeah. Yeah, I think supporting really important programs like the Boys and Girls Club of America, she was saying, and it really, there are a lot of amazing programs. I mean, what the three guys are doing right now individually with their own charities and programs with youths and amateur boxers and people who are just young people who are struggling in the streets who don't have anywhere to go and providing positive programs for them. Because boxing, the reason why I found this story to be so important was about the people that make up the sport. I mean, we're saying that there's no governing body, there's nobody that can help them, but the truth is this is like a much bigger problem because look at the people who have to fight. Look at the people who this is their one way out of whatever life that they've been given, that they're just stuck in a rut.
But one interesting socio kind of economic thing, it's interesting it's come full circle now that the poor kids now are white again. Because the majority of young fighters now that are coming up are poor kids from Ukraine, Kazakhstan, former Soviet Union, and, you know, it was Latinos for almost a generation. As Latino Americans are moving up the food chain, as they are, with disposable income, they're achieving with great level of political strength, whatever. It's now the new immigrants to America who come over here with nothing, who were raised in these amateur programs in the former Soviet Union. 6 out of the last 10 fighters I signed, all of them were great prospects.